If the world's militaries were a country, it would be the fourth largest emitter of greenhouse gases, after China, the US and India. This comparison comes from a study published in 2022 by two UK-based environmental groups. And since then, the situation hasn't improved. The United Nations now says that military activity worldwide accounts for up to 7% of all global emissions. And those emissions are rising significantly. Last year, worldwide military expenditure reached $2.7 trillion, and it's increasing fast, a record rise since at least the end of the Cold War. Over 100 countries are rearming and restocking, with rapid growth across Europe and the Middle East. But that spending comes with a carbon cost. Between 2021 and 2023, NATO countries increased their defense spending. And during that time, their military emissions rose by 30 million tons. That's the same as adding over 8 million cars on the road. Under pressure from the United States, NATO members are being pushed to spend considerably more sooner. Experts say the real challenge is decarbonizing heavy weapons systems such as tanks, warships, submarines, and fighter jets, which globally eat the most fuel every year. The United States remains the world's biggest military spender. When asked if they plan to decarbonize, a Pentagon spokesperson told the BBC, "We are eliminating climate change programs and initiatives that are inconsistent with the department's core war-fighting mission." NATO didn't respond, but analysts suggest efforts to offset their increased emissions are not particularly effective. And there is another concern too. Experts warn that as defense budgets rise, resources risk being diverted away from climate protection.
Many or several northern countries, the Western European countries, for example, are reducing international cooperation budget and then diverting that to defense priorities, defense budget. So I think there is a movement, the shift of financial resources from those climate action related budget, social spendings and international cooperation to military expenditure. So that is a trend that we are already beginning to see. The ODA is shrinking, definitely.
And with some donor countries cutting aid, vulnerable nations could be left with even less support as they face floods, wildfires, and rising seas. Wars also create a climate cost. It's hard to measure precisely, but estimates give a sense of the impact. In its first 2 years, the Russia-Ukraine war emitted around 175 million tons of greenhouse gases. That's more than the Netherlands produces each year. And the Israel-Gaza war created more annual emissions than 36 countries and territories. Militaries worldwide insist they must boost their own capacity and rearm allies to deter security threats. But climate change itself is now seen as a security threat.
Just simply investing resources into armament is obviously not going to tackle those climate-related existential risks that we all share as a planet. The current imbalance needs to be addressed and looked at.
Floods, droughts, and wildfires could lead to less food, water, farming, and increased poverty. This can trigger social unrest, such as riots, looting, illegal migration, and fights over resources. And that creates a vicious circle. Militaries are preparing for a world with growing security threats, but that generates emissions that could intensify those threats.